Okay, Oscar fans, we are days away from the ceremony, and you know that Gold Derby knows the Oscars better than anyone else. Well, meet the real experts at Gold Derby, our editors. Forget those other guys who pipe in here. This is Marcus Dixon, our senior editor, and Chris Beecham, our managing editor. And this is how smart we are. Marcus is the only editor who got that ensemble award prediction correct at SAG, and none of the experts got it right. So, spill the beans, how'd you do it?
Well, it was so obvious. How did you guys get it wrong? I think there were 10 or 11 people at Gold Derby. So me plus 10 users. So congratulations to all you users for getting it too. But
out of thousands, 2,000.
2,000 people. It was a lot of things, and I actually posted an item on this. It was the women's vote, which was very important. That's how Orange is the New Black wins every single year. That's how Grey's Anatomy won on the TV side. That's how The Help won in Chicago. They love also ensembles. Manchester by the Sea is a great movie with one kind of character at the center. It's not an ensemble. Moonlight arguably is not an ensemble either. It follows one kid. Hidden Figures was an ensemble. It follows all of these people's lives. They talk to each other, they have scenes together, and then they also go off on their own. That's part of the reason I did it. It also is a huge box office hit. And I know that you said, they didn't send out DVDs, which is...
It was the only major competitor in that category that did not send out DVDs.
Right.
And I thought that was going to sink it. But all of these insights that you're pointing out are really, really spot on. So do we give Marcus credit for this, or do we just say it was a lucky break, Chris?
Moving on. No, I'll tell you one thing. I almost went down that road because of another thing you said, like the week before. It's got TV stars, it's got film stars, it's got theater people. Janelle Monáe, a music star. It had a mix of a blend of all. No matter who you were in the SAG-AFTRA, there was somebody in there that was similar to you.
La La Land is going to sweep the Oscars. We know that. According to the experts, right now it's going to win 11 categories, which would, assuming it does, it would tie the record held by Lord of the Rings, Titanic, and Ben-Hur. How many, in your estimation, Mr. Wise Sage, is it going to win?
So listen to what I'm saying, and not these guys here. But no, I'm not just copying the experts by saying it's going to win 11. But it can't win, it can't win Ryan Gosling. So that brings it down from 14 to 13. It has double song nominations, so that's another notch that they're not going to get. So we're down to 12 now. And then it's the best editing one, sound editing, that I'm also thinking they may not take home because, musicals hardly ever get nominated, let alone win. But then again, there could be a sweep mentality with these voters where they just see La La Land on their ballot.
That's what happened with Lord of the Rings. It's 11 was an undefeated streak. They just kept checking off that box, right, Chris?
Yeah, and the other one that's surprising me, but now I'm following the train, is original screenplay. Going into the weekend, I didn't think that Manchester seemed like a lock to me there, but so many people, including our own Zach Laws, wrote a great article about this, are now switching over to La La Land for original screenplay, which it won at the Globes. It tied with Manchester at the Critics' Choice Awards. So I don't know that one's a solid, absolutely.
You have to explain, musicals don't win the screenplay awards. Best Pictures win the screenplay awards all the time. We saw Birdman win recently. We saw Spotlight win recently in one of the screenplay categories. But you got to go back to the 1950s to Gigi in American in Paris to find a musical that won the screenplay award because they don't think that way. If the music has all that song and dance in it, it can't be a word-worthy honoree, right?
Well, and the other reason I think before this past week when everybody started switching is Kenneth Lonergan, who wrote Manchester by the Sea, Pulitzer Prize winning. He does Broadway plays. It just feels like a very, no matter what you think of the movie, it's just a very literate, dialogue-heavy movie. So that's why I don't think La La Land's a done deal there, but I think so many people are jumping on that bandwagon.
I've got it down to winning screenplay too. I think there will be a sweep factor. But Chris, you've got a really great theory here. Among these 4 races where it's borderline. So we've got 7 where it's going to win. Picture, director, actress, production design, music score, song, and sound mixing, because the musicals always win sound mixing, Whiplash won, etc. now you get into these maybes: costume, screenplay, cinematography, and film editing. And as Marcus pointed out, the nose, actor, and maybe sound editing. I think there's a chance it could win there. Give us your costume setup here, Chris, because this is fascinating. Most people have it winning there, but you have a real insight in terms of maybe it won't.
Well, I'm currently predicting it there, but if you look back over Oscar history, which is important, these voters think they're in the Academy a long time, a lot of them. It's been since 2 decades. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, won for costume design.
As a contemporary.
As a contemporary movie, when it's always these, 1500s, 1600s, period type movies that win costume design. And Priscilla's very lavish, about a drag queen.
Yeah.
Before that, you have to go back to the 60s when they split the award. They had a black and white and a color each year. You have to go back to Virginia Woolf winning. And Elizabeth Taylor was such a fashion icon, which I don't think you would say necessarily Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are fashion icons, like Elizabeth Taylor was, for example. It's making me wonder. It's making me wonder if they might go another direction on costume design.
Film editing is kind of queasy too, because that usually the most frenetic, choppy, jiggling camera thing tends to win, which would be in this case Hacksaw Ridge being a film.
Right. We kind of thought that way, but then the Ace Eddies went a different direction. They went with Arrival, and of course they also have a comedy.
And La La Land on comedy.
Yeah. So La La Land went there too. So now, for me at the Oscars, I'm kind of split between those two, between Arrival and La La, and I'm not really taking Hacksaw into that much consideration anymore.
Poor Kevin O'Connell's nominated in sound mixing, the biggest loser in Oscar history. He's not going to win there, because that sound mixing, that's a La La slam.
He was a sound editor. He probably would win.
Yeah, exactly.
For Hacksaw.
Right. What is your most Daredevil long shot prediction?
Well, I actually made it today after talking to you about my great Hidden Figures prediction at the SAG Award. You made me kind of rethink the screenplay race where it's in it's
Moonlight's
original
out
or
front
documentary,
there,
right?
and then you've got Hidden Figures in 4th place.
Right, and
all
I
things.
moved that to first place today.
Here's why that may not be a good idea, and that is, let's look back at the last time a big upset happened in arguably an upset in ensemble at SAG, and it was American Hustle won. It went 10 for 10 losses at the Oscars, and it lost to 12 Years a Slave at SAG. Or did it? Am I getting my facts
Hustle
right?
won.
Hustle won at SAG. This is the point I'm trying to make. So, on the other hand, 2 years ago, a movie very similar to Hidden Figures won, Imitation Game. In other words, geniuses behind the scenes, persecuted peoples who are not getting the due that they deserve in a time of crisis.
As far as right now, if the Oscars were today, I would keep Hidden Figures in my #1 spot. But Moonlight is just so beloved. I'm talking about screenplay. It's so beloved that it's going to win something, right? And we all think it's going to win Mahershala Ali, but could it win one of these other categories like screenplay or like something else?
Chris, the big upset, of course, at SAG was Denzel Washington beating Casey Affleck here, and it made us rethink everything as pundits here. But here's the problem. Denzel hasn't won anything. All season, he lost the Critics' Choice Award to Casey. He's not even nominated at BAFTA. He lost the Globes to Ryan Gosling. Why is it all of a sudden now, because he wins SAG, we think he's going to win? Look, a couple years ago, when it looked as if all of a sudden Eddie Redmayne had pulled ahead of Michael Keaton in the Best Actor race, there at least was, in his past, a win for Globe. He and Keaton both won separate acting awards. Denzel doesn't have any of that. So is he going to win or not? And
This
why?
is such a fun race. It probably is either Denzel or Casey. I don't think any of the other men have made a case. I don't know. You and I talked Sunday afternoon. You said, tell me what you're thinking on Best Actor, and I said that. I said, I had Denzel forever, and I just thought, what has he won this season? Until before SAG, nothing. But he's so beloved in the industry.
And sometimes that's what it's all about. Nobody argues, I don't believe, maybe Sandra Bullock's mother argues that she deserved the Best Actress Award, but it was a case of where Hollywood says, Sandy's never won, let's give her a hug. And very often it's about that. Jean Dujardin, there was so much love for the artist, he got a hug along the way. I don't think anyone in the film criticism community would say that was the outstanding dramatic performance of the year.
Well, Casey, as wonderful as the performance is, it is about what you're doing behind the scenes and on stages and stuff. And he's just sort of been a downer, when he's out talking.
And he hasn't been out. So we're talking about the campaign here.
Yeah, just
Right? But
campaigning.
he's got the sexual harassment allegations, so he's been making himself sparse in terms of media, and he doesn't come backstage when he wins things to the press room and talk. We understand why.
Every time somebody says, Denzel hadn't won anything before SAG, look at Mark Rylance. He didn't win anything until BAFTA, and then he went on to win the Oscar. So even though Denzel's coming on late, he's still, he's not nominated at the BAFTAs. So
He's never been nominated.
This is right, because they hate him for some reason.
Yeah, they don't
This
hate
is
him.
the
It's
last thing he can win before the Oscars.
If I was Denzel's people, I would have him presenting an award at BAFTA, that's for sure. He doesn't need out of sight, out of mind for a whole month.
I saw Fences on Broadway. I was in like the third row of that theater, and there was just something so magnetic and powerful and profound about seeing the performances of Denzel and Viola there, and you just knew they were going to take the Tonys. And of course, Tony's night, we were there, Gold Derby backstage, and of course they were there, and it was this electric moment. It's kind of hard now looking at the Oscars to think one of them will win, Viola, but the other one won't. This is the two of them. This is a two-hander. This is a tango of great, acting together. And this is not just any play. This is a Pulitzer Prize winning Tony. This is literature. This is Fences. He directed it. The problem with the Denzel theory is that the character is a scoundrel, and he's not likable. And we see all the time scoundrel roles win Oscars, but they tend to be winking devils. They tend to be Javier Bardem and Heath Ledger, or just J.K. Simmons a few years ago with Whiplash. He ain't no winking devil. No. He's a creep.
We talked about this the day we saw it on the Paramount lot. We were talking, can he be Casey? But he's not that well liked, so that could definitely
Not Denzel, the character.
The character.
Exactly. Yeah, the character.
He's a mean guy, and not in the, like you say, a winking devil.
He's unapologetic.
He brings his family down with his attitude. Yeah. But he's really good. A couple of things.
The last time he won an Oscar, it was for a really despicable role with Training Day. And again, he was screaming the whole time, very unlikable.
But that was sort of a winking devil to me.
Was it?
I felt like so. Normally, the SAG winners typically do go on. I think it was 2 years ago was the last time that we had all four win at the Oscars.
Right, let's explain. The SAG-AFTRA merger took place in 2012, where there have only been 3 races since the SAG, and that's when you have to look at the tea leaves. Prior to that, you just had actors voting. Now you've got weathermen from Des Moines, TV weathermen and newsmen. You have people like me voting. I was an AFTRA member. Now, what am I doing voting for the SAG? But I voted. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that I forgot what the point I'm trying to make.
We don't necessarily have the historical knowledge.
So the last 3 years, the 3 races at SAG, the first 2, 2013 and 14, they did agree 4 and 4 SAG to the Oscars. But last year there was a difference. Idris Elba won. He was not up for the Oscars. He beat Mark Rylance, but Sly Stallone, the presumed Oscar frontrunner, wasn't in the SAG nomination lineup. So the whole thing was all screwed up. So Idris wins SAG. He's not up for the Oscar, and Mark Rylance pulls off an upset there.
The thing about Denzel's win at SAG that confuses me in terms of predicting forward is, he's been doing this for 35 years. We and other press were consistently saying in headlines, never won a SAG award, never won I don't know how much that played into their voting for him.
I think that helped a lot.
Whereas Oscar voters don't have that dilemma because he's won twice. And winning a third, they don't do that often.
He'll join a pantheon of 5 other people. Name them, Chris. Can you name them?
6 other people.
Okay, who?
Well, Katharine Hepburn has 4.
Oh, if you can, yes.
Right, just 3 or more.
5 people who won 3.
Meryl Streep, Ingrid Bergman, Walter Brennan. When I mentioned that to him backstage the other night, he started to do the Walter Brennan dance.
When he mentioned this to Denzel.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson and Daniel Day-Lewis. So it's a tiny little group.
Speaking of Daniel Day-Lewis, one of our writers, John Bonetti, did a great job researching the last time a movie won Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress, because it could happen with Fences this year. It was 27 years ago. It was My Left Foot, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Brenda Fricker. That's the last time that this happened. But it could very well happen
another
again.
thing
Fences
is...
isn't winning Best Picture.
Well,
No, Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
The combination of those two. Almost every year, a person playing a real-life person wins an Oscar. And if we go with the 4 that SAG chose, none of them.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So, they love, I think it's often because they can compare. They know what Jackie Kennedy looked like and sounded like, and they know that Natalie Portman.
A degree of difficulty. But what Denzel has going for him is a big performance. It's a bombastic, theatrical.
If it's based on most.
Yes, it's based on most. And we often say that at Gold Derby, by the way, that they're voting for the most things. They vote, the sound awards go to the loudest movies. The costume awards are won by films like Priscilla.
The most score.
The most music score will win that. The most costumes win this. And this is the most performance there. But in Casey Affleck's defense, that is a deeply felt, big performance. It's a long movie. It's bigger than 2 hours and 10 or 15 minutes. He's there all the time. You are in his wounded soul as a viewer. And it is a magnificent performance that has swept the Precursor Awards. We presumed it was just going to be a march up to the podium until this Denzel thing happened. Marcus, who wins Best Actor?
I think Denzel right now.
Chris, who wins?
I've got Denzel.
I do too. Can there be an upset in the other three races? Can Viola, Mahershala Ali, or Emma Stone be toppled? Chris?
Mahershala is interesting, but I think SAG really cemented him because he did not win the Globe, but it was somebody that didn't even get nominated at the Oscars, so that doesn't really hurt him. He won Critics' Choice. I think he's safe, and he's the kind of actor that everybody's worked with. He's in all kind of TV shows and small parts in movies, and I think that helps. Actress, I think it's Emma Stone, but it's tough. Almost anybody in that category would have won in another year. You know, Ruth Negga, maybe not, but
Yeah, the other four.
Natalie Portman would win in a cakewalk most years. Meryl Streep, talk about most. This is one of her best performances ever, and then Isabelle Huppert. We've seen foreign language performances win. So those four ladies, I think it's closer than we're making it out
and
to
you
be.
need fewer votes to win there. But Emma is, if this is all about La La Land this year at the Oscars, and it is, then she is the heart and soul of that
The Best
movie.
Picture winner often, and they did not the last 2 years, but often wins an acting award.
Yes. And so she goes along for the ride. But it's not a transformative performance. It's not a real life character. It has all these other things that going for it, but doesn't have pretension, artistic pretension. And if Oscar voters or anything, they are snobs. So Emma is vulnerable. I've been an unabashed fan of the movie Jackie. I still think that Natalie Portman is in the hunt, but Isabelle Huppert fascinates me as a character because we often say among us editors at Gold Derby, picking winners is like looking at a basket of fruit where there are maybe 4 oranges and 1 apple, and very often the apple wins simply because it's so different from the others. And Isabelle is that. I would argue that just a few years ago, if there had been a few more weeks in the Oscar race, Emmanuel Riva would have won Best Actress. And it was the last, a big foreign language performance.
She was taken down by the ingenue that year, who didn't put on, a wig or makeup, Jennifer Lawrence, which could happen this year with Emma Stone beating her.
So do you agree that there is a chance for an upset for actress?
Yes, I think so. I was kind of late to the Emma Stone train. I picked her just a week before SAG, and I think I was listening to your Slugfest with Jack Matthews where I realized that Emma Stone had a bigger chance than I realized.
Of all groups, was SAG going to vote for her because she's playing a struggling actress? So we don't know.
It didn't help Michael Keaton.
No, it didn't, but, well, we won't get into that. What if there's a possibility that really played into it and we're overplaying her ability to win the Oscar? I think if she wins BAFTA, Emma Stone, I think that's the last nail in that coffin.
How did the nominees line up, Oscars to BAFTA?
Well, Isabel wasn't eligible.
That's right.
They put in
Natalie.
of course, Natalie. Natalie, for a long time, I thought would win, no matter what happened
looks like a
with
made for
Emma at
Oscar
SAG.
role. Yeah.
Well, Natalie would win,
Right.
but Jackie's just underperformed in lots of other categories. So I just don't know if it's as beloved as we all thought it might be.
And there's no one, Natalie Portman has all these enormous fans everywhere, but it's not like the Julianne Moore year where Still Alice underperformed across the board. But she had never won, and there was this momentum behind that. I think if Natalie had never won, it would be a completely different story. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Not that people can't win a second, or in Denzel's case, a third, but when there's not the narrative there to, we got to give it to this person.
This year's narrative is just La La Land, La La Land, La La Land.
Well, is that true in Best Director? Best Picture and Director almost always line up, except in recent years they have not. There have been just tons of times that it's split, including last year with Inarritu winning for The Revenant for director and Spotlight winning picture. Is there a chance, Marcus, that Damien Chazelle could lose Best Director to, let's say, Barry Jenkins, who's in second place at Gold Derby's odds?
No, I think Damien has it, and I do. I mean, for a second there at the Golden Globes, I thought maybe Mel Gibson could win this. I think a lot of us were switching Mel
Yes.
Gibson. After the Globes went with Damien, that cemented it. Everyone else.
You can go back to 1995 when the Globes went with Mel Gibson for Braveheart, and that started the whole juggernaut toward Braveheart taking Best Picture and him winning director. Or did he win director that year? I can't even remember.
But Barry Jenkins, I think he will be rewarded in screenplay unless my Hidden Figures theory comes true. I think it'll be one of those two.
Director?
I think it's Damien. Normally, when we've seen these splits, we knew for certain who was winning director based on all the tea leaves. So, for example, Inarritu last year, we knew he was winning for The Revenant no matter what won for picture, or Gravity. We knew even if Gravity didn't win Best Picture, Alfonso was winning director. So normally there's like that one director that's the alternative if it's going to go that route. It was all Damien's vision for the movie, so I think people know that. He's going to be the youngest director winner ever.
And those two exceptions you just mentioned, those films, The Revenant and
Gravity.
Gravity, were directorial achievements. And Moonlight is more of a
Story.
a story and an acting.
And its
achievement.
performances, it's not the big. All right, you got your inside picks. Now go to Gold Derby and make your predictions and beat the experts and beat the editors when it comes to accuracy rates, okay? That's a dare.